In this video, I'm going to explain to you why you should question authority, especially when it comes to anything financially related. I'm also going to explain exactly how and why gold and silver is the single best way to do it. Now, if you don't know who I am, my name is Steph. I'm from alethaios.com. I've been in the bullion space for over half a decade as both a customer and a seller. What we do is help people, businesses, and super funds invest over $50,000 into precious metals. I make these videos completely for free for everybody else so that you're more educated about the bullion space, because I believe every single human on the planet should purchase and have at least a little bit of precious metals in their personal portfolios. So why should we question authority, especially in regards to anything relating to finance? Well, the modern financial system is based on trust. Now, trust in who? The trust of both commercial and central banks, as well as the government or state. Now, typically, these entities have a very poor track record when it comes to behaving correctly and taking actual care of their citizens. Throughout history, central banks, commercial banks, and governments have not had a crystal clear record, so to speak. These institutions often serve their own interests rather than yours or the people they are actually meant to serve and govern. These entities are so large now. There's so many government jobs. We're seeing this with NDIS services. We're seeing this with all these kinds of services. They have their place, but all of these jobs that are created by governments to keep the economy going, that are paid for by money which is printed out of nothing, these entities have ballooned in size. They are now incentivized, like parasites, to keep themselves constantly sweeping in resources. This is literally parasitical. They are now no longer thinking of being in service. They are trying their best to make a profit, and they do it in ways that deceive. The main one being through inflation. It's very easy to see how much you get taxed. It's very difficult to determine how much money and wealth that is being stolen from you, because it is stealing, that how much wealth is being stolen from you directly by inflation. It's very easy to tell. Look at the gold and silver prices. When's the last time that you thought positively about a state, government, bank? I'm assuming almost never. The system is designed to make you dependent, not independent. This is very, very strategic and done by design, because if they can make a public that is dependent on them, those that are dependent are very easy to control. So when you've got an authority who is showing you telltale signs that they want to make you dependent, that they no longer have your best interest at heart, it is only natural to question that authority. They want to strip every piece of independence from you very, very slowly. It's a very master plan. It's going to happen very slowly, just due to natural human ignorance. And this cycle has happened hundreds of times throughout history. It's just that humans are fickle and we never learn our own lessons. That is why we should naturally always question authority. The people that are in charge should be rigorously questioned. Even for me, for people that are watching my videos, I should be rigorously questioned by you to ensure that what I am saying is correct. Because I also may be deluded. Even for the sake of me, you should be questioning everything I should be saying. And that's perfectly right. And I believe you should be doing that. Everything should be questioned, because the truth does not fear question. When we start to ban speech, when we start to ban thoughts, those are the people you should begin to wonder, have they got my best interest at heart? Now, probably not. So, naturally, off the bat, we should automatically, and that is all the main reasons why we should automatically question authority, especially with something as so important as finance. When it comes to finance, we should constantly be questioning what type of products are being sold to us. How does the financial system work? Because it affects every single one of us. Whether you're an artist, a singer, a bullion dealer, like the bullion dealer that I'm partnered with, whether you're the Melbourne Vault that I'm also partnered with, whether you're an electrician, whether you're whatever you are, the financial system and the dollar itself affects you, because you now rely on it, because it has been decreed by the state to be legal tender Obviously, that's great. It makes your life easy because currency, it stops us from bartering between each other. It makes it really easy to transact in the economy, but it also allows us and opens us up for further control and authoritarian powers. So we should naturally question that authority. How do assets like gold and silver allow us and represent the questioning of authority, especially when it comes to anything related to finance? The main reason being is that these assets are nobody else's liability. It's really hard to lose money on an asset or lose that asset when nobody owes you that asset. In the case of gold and silver, especially when you buy physical gold and silver, which is the only form of gold and silver that I recommend, with the very slight exclusion of gold and silver mining companies. In general, when you're trying to invest in gold and silver, I always recommend buying the physical bullion itself. If you don't hold the asset in your hands, it is not yours. Almost all other assets on the planet are somebody else's liability. Loans. When the bank loans you money, it is their asset and your liability. If you go bankrupt, obviously the bank will have collateral. But if you go bankrupt, say for example, if you take a loan out and you don't provide collateral and you go bankrupt, that person has now lost that money. It was their liability. They clearly did not do their due diligence and probably shouldn't have let you money because you have now gone bankrupt. That's one of a plethora of examples. Shares. When you buy shares on an exchange, you're assuming that that company will do well and not go bankrupt. Now, it's their equity, so it's a slight different thing. But the general reason and the main reason that I tell people why assets like gold and silver are so undervalued right now is because they are nobody else's liability. In a world ran by debt and perpetual increasing debt, you want an asset that nobody can bankrupt on and you lose it. You want an asset that's yours and yours alone. That is why these assets represent the questioning of everything. When you buy gold and silver, you're basically saying, I question the entire financial system's legitimacy, which is a perfectly understandable viewpoint to have, especially in today's world of constant debt and inflation. They are yours and only yours. They are not based on promises or trust. When you buy gold and silver, no longer reliant on anybody. I have an asset which is mine and mine alone. I don't have to question authority. I don't even have to think about it because they are mine, especially when you've got them in storage at your own premises and you've hid them really well. You don't need to hope that governments will pay their debt. You are questioning authority. When I buy gold and silver, I'm essentially saying I don't believe that the government can pay off its debt, or I'm less inclined to believe that now, especially because I'm buying gold and silver. I'm hedging my bets. I'm cashing the chips. When's the last time that you thought, damn, the government was really financially responsible? Probably never. How stupid did that sentence just sound? Probably really stupid. When I think of government, I don't really think of responsible or financially responsible or budget. They're not words that I think of. When you buy gold and silver, you're betting that people will continue to be ignorant and stupid because the majority of people, probably me too, are ignorant and stupid, at least at some things. Nobody knows everything. And the majority of people don't know anything. And I class myself as one of those people. So you own this asset. You hold it. It is yours. It is nobody else's. It is not tied to another financial institution. It is not tied to a central bank. It is not tied to a commercial bank. It is not tied to a government. It's an asset class which is not tied to anybody who is incentivized to lie to you, to take advantage of you. These assets allow you an opportunity to invest in something that requires nobody else. Once it's made, once it's poured, once it's set, once it's confirmed as pure, which is something that we do, I can show you through testing with actual software and technology using our XRF machine. I can show you that these products are what I say they are, especially with the bullion dealer that I'm partnered with, because that's something you need to consider too. Who are you purchasing the products off of? I believe I'm partnered with the single best bullion dealer in Australia. So again, the main reason we buy gold and silver is because there is no counterparty risk. Forget the price. forget the price. If you want to question authority and you want to question the entire financial system, if you want to put your money where your mouth is, if you believe that there's something going on, recent price increases, inflation has been so hot. Why? Why has that happened? If you look at the history of gold and silver, the answers are all there. So if you want to buy an asset that will hold its value, that has no counterparty risk, invest in products like gold and silver. Holding gold and silver is essentially a declaration of independence. What you're saying is, I am now independent of any state, including the currency that they issue and enforce. I am completely independent of that financial system. At least for that portion of my wealth, I am completely independent. Is independence not a good thing? When has dependence on something ever been good? Obviously, when you depend on your family and stuff like that, that's great and fine. But dependence on an authority, which you do not question and which is incentivized to screw you, is probably not a great idea, especially financially. Buying gold and silver reduces your exposure to currency devaluation through the tool of inflation by the creation of currency, by the constant creation of currency through credit and loans. When banks want to make more money, they loan money into existence and then charge interest. That is precisely why the prices of everything has gone up, especially in recent years. When you buy gold and silver, you're less exposed to bank collapses, to bail-ins, to bank runs, any of that sort. You're completely unexposed. That portion of your wealth is completely safe because everybody on the planet can go bankrupt and your gold and silver is still yours. When you buy gold and silver, you're less exposed to bank freezes, to frozen accounts. I'm sure, and I've heard a plethora of stories, especially in Australia, of people having their bank accounts shut. Banks typically either overreact or are really terrible when it comes to closing accounts due to fraud or due to transactions that seem suspicious. It's a giant pain in the ass. It's so annoying. You're less exposed to those things when you own an asset like gold and silver. Real money, like gold and silver, gives us real freedoms. When you're buying assets and selling assets and are exposed to a currency that is created out of nothing, you are reliant on that currency. You rely on the authority that issues that currency. And if you don't question that authority, and the only way to question that authority is to buy gold and silver, because when you are overly exposed, which I believe everybody is, through the tool of debt, when you are overexposed, you are both reliant and you are not questioning that authority. Gold and silver are a contrarian bet. You're basically going against all common sense advice by financial advisors and the people in charge. Now, this denotion of gold and silver being an old relic or outdated or shady is a very recent phenomenon we've seen in the last 100 years. People have gone to war and died for gold and silver for thousands of years. They've done it for land and they've done it for gold and silver. They've done it for cattle, all that kind of stuff. Gold and silver has been one of those assets. This is done on purpose by the political arms and the propaganda arms of the entire system just because it relies on itself now. It wants to run itself, it wants to maintain dominance and authority. So it disincentivizes people into investing in assets like gold and silver. They do it purely so they have more control over you. If everybody in Australia or the planet had a large sum of money in gold and silver, how less likely would it be that the government would misbehave or that the financial powerhouses, the banks, the big banks would misbehave? It would be far more difficult because now the general masses, the general public, have far more of their wealth in assets that are nobody else's liability, that are theirs and theirs alone. If that were to happen, they could exercise less control on people because now those people are less reliant on that financial system. They don't have as much money in the bank because a lot of their money is in gold and silver. And that gold and silver is not decreed to be valuable by a state. It is valuable because it's real money. because it serves the purpose and because it stores its value absolutely amazingly, especially in recent years, in gold's case, in the Australian dollar, as well as silver's. If the majority of people are broke, unhappy, and riddled with debt, why are you going to do the exact same thing that those people are going to do? If everybody that you know is getting into 30 years of unknown interest rate debt via a mortgage, and they hate their jobs and they hate their lives and they can't get by and they are constantly struggling and need more and more money to pay off their massive debt, which the majority of it will be interest, why are you buying assets and doing the exact same thing they are? In what world can you expect better returns or a better quality of life by doing the exact same thing people are? The average person is completely ruined financially in today's world. They are saddled with so much debt, it's not even funny. They serve for a great slave, which is by design to the banks. I have no idea how it has happened this way, how it continues to persist, how people are not waking up to what is going on. Historically, the contrarians, those who held hard money, eventually were validated. They not only survived, they thrived through tough times. And I truly believe that this trend will continue into the future. If you want to do something about your financial well being, you best invest in the assets that the governing authority tells you that is probably not a good idea to invest in. Because those people that I mentioned before and I highlighted before are incentivized to lie, are incentivized to mislead in order to better control you. That does not sound like a great authority, an all knowing authority that has our best interest at heart. If we wanted to question that authority, the best way would be to do the things and buy the assets which they don't recommend. One of those assets or one of those asset classes are physical precious metal, hands down. The current financial system that is in place is designed to keep you spending. It is designed to keep you borrowing and to keep obeying. In the current financial system, those that get into debt benefit the most. This is purely because of the non neutrality of money. What that means is when money is created into existence, the effects are not as simple as if I double the money supply, the double of the price of assets will occur. It's not that simple. Those that borrow and then initially spend that money first actually benefit the most. This is because those dollars that have recently been printed through that loan have not trickled through the economy yet and have not bid up the prices yet. So, if a government or central bank or anybody can borrow money and then spend that money on goods and services before those goods and services has gone up in price, they have a far greater advantage than those who save and keep the money in a bank account. This is by design to incentivize people to get into debt and become a servant of interest and the banks. Again, those that get into debt ultimately benefit in the short term, but they are far easier to control, especially in the long term. Gold and silver. Now, you've got rules, these rules that I previously mentioned, that are against our best interests by an authority. And this is being done because we are not questioning the authority who has written those rules. Gold and silver do not play those rules. They completely change them. They abide by their own rules of freedom. Real money has a real reward, and that is freedom. If you can legally change the rules of the game by legally investing, which you can do through a personal account, through a corporation, or through a super fund, which is what we do. If you can legally, with guidance, legally invest in these assets to change the rules of the game to better benefit you, why the hell would you not do it? Why would you not do that? Gold and silver offer you that exact opportunity. For thousands of years, people have trusted gold and silver, not because the state has told them to, but because naturally it has occurred to be so. Not because they were told to, but because gold and silver worked. They stored their value. They were divisible. They were a great way to transact and they were nobody else's liability. They did not go off. Silver tarnishes, but it does not go off. Gold is the most noble metal on the planet. That's what it's known for, especially throughout history, like in Egypt. Gold and silver are the money of free people because they do not rely on a state. They are completely sovereign in their own regard. We, the people, need to question authority. We need to view and acknowledge the difference between the people in charge's words as opposed to their action. Years ago, and at first, they told you that inflation was not happening, that it was not happening. Deep down, you knew it was happening, and they told you it was not happening. The moment that they could not maintain that illusion, they told you, yes, it may be happening, but it's actually good. After that, you quickly realized that it was not a good thing and they could not maintain that lie and illusion again. They told you, all right, it's okay, it's not good, but it's not our fault. It's not our fault. We're the ones in charge, but it was not our fault. Again, this is to mislead and lie to you. Why do you continue to trust those same people with your wealth? Because you are trusting them. When you hold their cash, when you have bank deposits in a bank account, you're trusting both that bank as well as the government because that bank deposit is denominated in their currency. You're trusting them. Why are you trusting them in terms of assets that are both denominated in that currency? Gold predates any and all currencies on the planet. It's mentioned in the Bible before even Adam and Eve. Put your money where your mouth is and invest in something that is nobody else's liability. Invest in assets that they despise. Invest in assets that hold a contrarian viewpoint, that are completely and go against everything that the people in charge say. Invest in real money like gold and silver. Buying gold and silver is not just a financial investment, it's a statement. It involves so much more philosophical reasoning and moral reasoning behind it. Do not wait for permission. Do not wait for shit to hit the fan. Do not wait for stuff to go wrong. You already have the signs that you need to invest in something like gold and silver. They are the persistent and continual inflation, which will not stop. I can guarantee you because it is required by the system. The persistent and endless debt that you are required to take out to continue to survive in the current financial economy, as well as the reckless government spending, which will continue because more and more dollars must be flooded into the economy to keep the system going. Reclaim your financial power, liberate yourself from control, buy real assets, buy real money for the real rewards. Gold and silver are the answer, point blank and period, especially in a holistic portfolio. I believe every single person on the planet should hold gold and silver, not because the prices of these assets will go up, which they will, because they are not going to stop printing money, but purely because it allows us as the people to have a higher amount of bargaining power on when writing the rules. Because now we are less reliant on the person who actually writes them. I hope you have a great day. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. I will catch you later on the next one.